Hey, is your brand getting lost in the crowd? Are you ready to take it to the spotlight? This episode is for business leaders who want to have their brand rise above the noise. So join me and Trey Robinson, a seasoned marketing executive who took realized holdings from 5 million to over 15 million in just 4 years. In this episode, Trey shares how to position your brand to stand out and hit those ambitious growth goals. Discover the keys to building a brand that matters, leveraging organic search outside or to outshine bigger competitions, and crafting a marketing strategy that truly aligns with your vision for success. Don't miss these game-changing insights. Your brand breakthrough could be just one step away. Hey, entrepreneurs, if you're ready to boost your profits and grow your business, welcome to Profit with a Plan podcast, where we share strategies to help you scale your company, increase your profitability, and set up for a successful exit. I'm your host, Marcia Riner, a business growth strategist and the profit booster behind Infinite Profit. I've helped countless entrepreneurs to build highly profitable and sale-ready businesses, because the more profit, it makes more profits now and a bigger payout later. By the way, today's episode is sponsored by Infinite Profit, where we don't just talk profit, we deliver it. Ready to take your business to the next level? Visit infiniteprofitconsulting.com and start boosting your bottom line today. Now, before we dive in, I have something special just for you. If you ever wanted to avoid those profit plateaus, operational headaches, or those pesky growth roadblocks, mouth's not working, grab my free Profit Booster Playbook at boostingprofit.com, where I share 3 essential strategies to elevate your profits quickly. All right, let's jump in today. On today's episode, my guest is Trey Robinson. Trey is a seasonal marketing executive with a strong background in D2C and B2B growth strategies, known for his leadership and cross-team collaboration skills. As a fractional CMO and head of marketing at Realized Holdings, he has driven revenue growth from under 5 million in 2018 to just over 15 million in 2022, with a 200% increase in leads and significant site traffic improvement. He is also the founder of Amplify, a digital marketing agency focused on enhancing brand credibility and growth, especially for financial services. As a sixth-generation Texan, Trey holds a degree from Stephen F. Austin and lives in Dripping Springs with his wife, Monica, and their 3 sons. Dripping Springs. That's a really cool name for a town. Welcome, Trey, to Profit with a Plan podcast.
Thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
Awesome, awesome. Okay, so wow, quite the lineup in your history and accomplishments, my goodness. But before we get into your accomplishments and how really that can translate to the audience and help them grow their businesses, how did you get into marketing and this kind of revenue growth?
Honestly, in high school, I did sales stuff. Sold newspapers, I sold shoes, I sold refrigerators. But when I got to college, I was like, well, there's no sales degree. So what's the next closest thing? And it was marketing. So, just kind of followed my passion.
Well, I think I ought to have a sales degree. I was on a sales training call this morning with one of my service providers, and it was all really technical stuff that didn't involve marketing, that involved engagement and closing. So, yeah, for all those colleges out there, maybe a sales degree is a is a new thing to have or should
Yeah,
be
totally.
having.
If you've ever had a sales coach, they're unique. They've got great tips and tricks. There are proven techniques to it, right? So a bunch of people could benefit from that.
Oh, absolutely. And if you're not selling in your business, as one of my dear friends says, then you're not in business. You have a hobby. So everything you do
So
involves sales.
that's great.
Yeah. So interesting. Okay, so marketing and sales was in your blood since you were delivering newspapers in high school. So that's great. All right. So what I thought we'd talk about today is really, creating kind of that blend of marketing and sales and really mastering that, that unique value position that all businesses need because I promise you there's nobody out there that does that's the only person that does what they do, right?
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. And to your point, making sure that the marketing and sales are working together and they're working off the same song sheet, right, is key to the conversion of those leads, right? So we want to definitely make sure that not only are we being unique in our brand and in our messaging, but we're also it's resonating in all corners of the firm.
Nice, nice. Okay, so let's jump into that. How do we we I guess the question is everybody knows that, they've got to have a marketing strategy and they've got to be able to sell and convert those leads to create business because there's only two goals of a business is one to create a customer and second to create a profit. Um so how do we merge the two of those and get them on that same song sheet as you mentioned?
One of the we sit down with a lot of customers, and to me, one of the things that you really want to do when you're thinking about being unique, growing a business is that exact point. How are you unique? How are you different? Where do you stand out? And really sharpening the pencil around that question because we had a partner once say the riches are in the niches, and I thought it was a really unique thing to say because what we want is a business and a brand that knows who they serve, they know how they're different, they know where their value is, and when we get that level of understanding and then we can articulate it across, like I said, every corner of the business, that's when we see exponential growth.
I love it. I love it. And it is so true. I know that many people live in that fearful side saying, "Oh, but if I say I only work with chiropractors, then when a dentist comes, they're not going to come to me, then that fear side rather than the abundance side of saying there's enough chiropractors out there to fill 10 of your companies."
Well, and it's well said. I also think the other thing is let's just use your chiropractor example. If you service chiropractors, you understand what the services are, you understand what they do, you understand the language they use, you understand the value they bring. And so every time you go to work with a new chiropractor, they don't have to pay you to learn their business. You get to
Mm.
hit the ground running and you get to add value immediately, right? And so I think that resonates across. If you know your customer and you know them uniquely well, you're better positioned to serve them and add value faster than anyone else. And so why not own that?
Ugh, smart. Well said. And I think that draws a picture too, because there's often times you go to somebody and they're like, "Well, tell me about your practice or tell me about your business," and I'm like, "Okay, do you know my business?" But when you do know that business, you're able to really get in there and go, "Have you thought about this?" Or I know these are your gaps. These are common gaps in your industry. So I know that helps out. Okay. So cool. So when we're branding ourselves, right? I think most business owners think of a brand and correlate it to a logo. Am I
Yes,
right?
100%. And that's probably one of my biggest pet peeves, right? Honestly, please, like a brand is so much more than logo and color. Like in
Yes.
font, like right, like it really is the experience that you want your clients and prospects to have, right? I mean, if I were to say to you, what's Starbucks, because we all know Starbucks, what's their brand, right? You're not going to say to me, well, they've got a green mermaid on the cup. What you're going to say is, no, I go get a cup of coffee. I have a place to sit. You know what I'm saying? They got a certain smell. It's a place I can meet my friends, right? Like you're talking about how you're experiencing the brand, not their color, their logo, or what picture it is.
Mm, well said. But if you don't have a storefront, right, and you have a marketing agency, we'll call that. If you have a marketing agency where you don't have incoming traffic and so on, is a brand still really important?
Oh, absolutely. So you got to remember, I'm a marketer, so I got a bias here. But that experience that you want your client and prospect to have, whatever format it's in, is your brand. You
Mm,
could be a coach a personal trainer, right? You may meet someone in a parking lot or on a soccer field. That's not your space, but how you interact with them, how they feel when you're coaching them, the results they see afterwards, that's your brand, regardless of where it's delivered. It's still your brand, right? And you still stand for, in this example, results, right? You might stand for weight loss. You might stand for performance. Those are all things that are part of your brand. It has nothing to do with the soccer field or the parking garage or wherever, or the gym, wherever you guys might meet.
So that connects beautifully to the fact that your brand is not a logo.
That's right.
Because your brand, when it's the experience they're getting and the results that you're driving, right? So I always say that my platform is I'm increasing revenue and driving growth for the ultimate goal of being able to sell your business in the future. And so that's the message I want to come across, and the experience and the results that I want them to get out of increasing revenue and driving growth. So that has nothing to do with my little gold, infinity symbol that I have in the picture behind me. Um, but it also gives you that feeling of strength and infinite opportunities and infinite possibilities that you could have from it. So it's interesting
Sure.
how you start to think of a brand differently besides the silly logo that you've got behind you.
Well, the logo might bring that promise to life, but the logo is based on the promise you're making to your consumers, right? And ultimately, I love that. Hey, in your case, I serve small business owners. I help them increase profits. Ultimately, it's to drive a sale, right? That's my positioning statement, or how I position myself in the market, how I add value to them. Now, you have a logo that's got an infinity symbol because you were trying to make your value prop come to life in your logo. Absolutely. But ultimately, your brand is all of those pieces together.
Love it. Love it. Okay, so how do we use that to differentiate ourselves? Because like I said earlier, we're not the only pony in town, right? We're most of our businesses are highly commoditized, and there's one or two at least down the street from you, if not, hundreds in your marketplace. How do you stand out?
Well, I mean, the first place you need to really think through is, yes, you might be in a commodity business, but what do you do that's unique?
Mhm.
Or what do you do that's different? Or why do your customers come to you versus the one down the street? Like, what is it that is differentiating to your business? It could be a price point. Oh, we're cleaners and we're 25 cents cheaper than the next guy. It could be the way you serve. We always make sure that you've got the best customer service, that we're never late on what we deliver. It may be your personality in general, that you're warm and you're greeting and you're helpful, right? Like, in a commodity business, it's really not a commodity business. The real question is, how is your commodity business different than the guy
Mhm.
down the street, right? And sometimes we have to really wrestle with that. We have to ask that question a lot, and we have to pull back layers, right? Or we might have to go talk to a consumer about, why do you choose this business? But if we work hard enough, we can get to understand why our best and most loyal customers choose us over the competition. And that usually is the kernel at the middle of the brand.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And it is so important because um there's so many things that are out there, and when buyers are shopping, right? They're looking for something that they can connect with, right? Something, whether your niche example as before, or it's a location or a pricing point, but it's something that's driving them to you and making you very attractive to them. It's like going to the grocery store and going down the cereal aisle, right? And there's, 100 different brands of cereal. And what are you looking for? The one with the raisins, or the ones with the nuts, or the ones that have, loaded with sugar, right?
Yeah.
What are you choosing, right? It's based on what you're looking to solve. And I think when we're creating our message, and correct me if I'm wrong, we want to be able to address that, right?
Absolutely. How are we unique? Who are we serving better than anyone else? Right. And then what do we do to serve them? Right.
Mhm.
Those are great questions asked. Your cereal example is really awesome because the packaged good folks are some of the branders and marketers out there, right? They figured out in a very crowded space, to your point, the cereal aisle, how do we differentiate a one product from the next, right? But you also see that in all kinds of places. And they pick niches. Like one of my favorite brands is Patagonia. They are very environmentally friendly. They're very outdoorsy. They're very adventure based. But man, their fans are rabid fans, and they're not going to wear anything else. And that's because they believe in the environmental message of Patagonia or the quality message of Patagonia, right? But at the same time, there's a bunch of circles outside of those what's the right word there? Raging fans that
Ravage would have foam on their mouth and they're ready to eat you or bite you, right?
That still wear Patagonia gear, right? But if you really get your niche right and you serve it really well, it honestly will bleed over into some of those other markets, but you got to start with that niche.
Love it. Love it. Okay. So when we're talking about the everyday business owners, so maybe our example now will be the CPA, right? They've got a service practice or an attorney or something, an accountant that has a business that does a service. How do they differentiate themselves? When it's just, I mean, taxes are taxes and numbers are numbers, right?
Yeah, I mean, so there's a lot of different levers to pull, right? You can start with price, right? What's your price point versus someone else? We could start with service. How do I give you a place to store all of your tax documents so that you don't have to go find them, right? That may be a unique service that you provide. It could be location, right? Like there's a differentiation there. Like we serve, the CPA serves my hometown, Dripping Springs, right? That all their clients are with 2 miles. They can drive by and see them, right? That's a totally different than an H&R Block, right? That's
Right.
online and right. And so that's where we like to sit down and if you're not sitting down with someone like us that's a marketing person, I think you can sit down on your own and start to think, what's common about my clients? Why do they love me? If I look at the guy down the street, why am I different from them? Right? I think there are some ways to think through who you serve and what you do, especially if you look through a competitive lens or a customer lens, that'll start to, if you look through them hard enough, you'll start to see, I am actually different. I do taxes in a unique way. I serve a group that's different than everybody else. Like you can get to that differentiation even in a commodity business.
Nice, nice. Okay. So how does using a unique value proposition, which is really truly what we're talking about, it's step number one in your marketing strategy and your growth strategy and really driving where your business is going, right? I mean, we're calling this like this is foundational, incredibly foundational information that you've got to nail. Um, and that doesn't mean it's not going to change and evolve throughout your career,
Sure.
but when you're putting things together for this growth and having this future strategy or vision, it's something that's got to be dialed in first, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I love the word you use, foundation, right? So we do brand decks for people, and sure, they've got logos and colors and fonts in it, but they also have things like positioning statements. And we're talking about 2 lines of this is what I do, this is who I serve, and this is why I'm unique, right? Like we're talking not even a full paragraph, right? That becomes, and then underneath that, what are the services that I offer my clients, right? How do I like to service them, right? And so we're talking about very short statements that become the underpinning, to your point, the foundation of the entire business. That then gets translated into my storefront. Is that on my website? Is it on my social pages? Is it on my physical storefront? How is my promise to the consumer being brought to life, right?
Mm.
And part of that, those questions are, who is my unique target market, right? And so the next thing, now that we know who we're serving and we know why we're different, we've got our storefront, right? How do I reach my target? Where are they? What do they care about, right? And And then now that I'm thinking about how do I reach them, like what do I offer them? What's my value to them? How do they interact with me? How do they test me? Right. But that all starts to emanate out from who am I? How am I unique? Who do I serve?
It sounds so simple, but it's not. I mean, it does. It really sounds so simple because, many of us business owners, as I've said over the years, that we have this idea that we can do something better, and I know how to do this thing, right? And then I mistakenly wrap a business around it and start chasing customers, but they never come back to this really foundational piece to nail it in a way that could really form and grow their company a lot faster, as in your example, where you went from 5 million to 15 million really quickly. I would assume that it had a lot to do with how you positioned yourself and spread that message out to the world.
At 100%, we were super targeted. So the realized example where I was the fractional CMO for a number of years, and still I was on a call with them today. So I've been working with them for 6 years. They serve investment property owners, people that own rent houses and that want to move out of being active landlords into passive landlords. Like they know exactly who their target is, right? It's really clear. That transition is fraught with peril. It can have big tax bills, right? And a lot of times these people, this is one of their largest assets, right? And so what we did was we built a content strategy, and I know we wanted to talk search a little bit, but we built a content strategy specifically answering the questions around that transition. We use tools to see what were the biggest questions being asked on Google, right? What topics are out there? Where aren't people getting answers? What are the biggest pain points? And then we wrote content into those places so that people could find answers, so that we could be helpful. And then after we answered their question and helped them through a stressful situation, we offered more. Would you like to learn more? Would you like to do you need help? We're here for that. But we started really with who's our target? What's their pain point? How can we help them? How can we serve that content up in a helpful way? And then after we solved their problem, or at least answered their question, then we said, would you like help with that?
Love it. And that's where you go back to the understanding that niche market that you're in so well that you're speaking exactly to them in all of your content. Now, that doesn't mean that the real estate owner who's thinking about moving out of current residence and using it as a rental as they upgrade wouldn't consider this, right? And the education and the pieces, somebody investigating whether they should get into the real estate market or not. I mean, there's still a lot of outer circles that could use this material. Real estate agents that sell to these people could become, so I mean, for me, that abundance l- thought process rather than that fear process of, oh, I may miss a customer if I don't say I do everything, you
Right.
know, sets
Well,
in.
yeah, ultimately, especially as you build out a strategy like that, we started with the actual product that we sold. That's where we started our content strategy. You quickly start to realize there are other products and services that wrap around that, right? And your content strategy, this was a 5-year strategy, right? It grows and grows and grows and grows and grows. We know that we're going to convert best. We have our clearest opportunity to sell something right at the center of that circle. But it doesn't mean that we don't need to create content that moves out like this, because there may be people that weren't considering our solution. They were searching something else because they weren't aware of it. And the content that they're reading might pulls them down into our funnel. So we really wanted to make sure we started with our niche, we started with our customer, but in time we helped the people that were helping them, right? And our content strategy grew. And ultimately that strategy ended up being 1,200 blogs, believe it or not. But
Wow.
it was a 5-year process.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. And I think that, you always want to consider, in the lifetime of your customer, right? What's the next logical thing that they need? And as they mature in their relationship with you, what would be the opportunities that you can provide? So there's still opportunities, many, many, many opportunities for growth, even though you're dialing in on that single uh piece in the beginning. So I think that that's really helpful. So when we're looking at this, you mentioned your 5-year strategy, right? You started with step one, and like anything, you always want to learn to crawl before you walk before you and run before you do a marathon, right? So I think if you're looking at your longer term vision and your strategy and everything for it, I mean, it still takes one step, right?
Yeah, I mean, you got to start somewhere, right? And starting back, like we just said, with who you serve uniquely well, that's the place. That's your starting place. To your point, also, you may grow to the point where you offer other services and you do other things. Well, good for you for growing to the point where you can do more than you originally set out, but still saying in that, still grounding yourself back to who your unique market is and what you do uniquely well. That's step one.
So let me ask you a question. So say I'm a business owner and I'm in my third or fourth or fifth year, and things are starting to flatline for me, and I'm thinking, okay, maybe I need to update and evolve a little bit or correct course. It's never too late to do this, right?
Oh, no, matter of fact, the best businesses revisit it on a reg and not every 5 minutes, but as they hit plateaus or they hit maturity cycles, they start to say, okay, is this still right? Is this
Mm,
still my target? Are these still my services? Like, or to your point, I flatlined. What's the next set of services that my target would want? That I where I could help them, right? And if we went back to your CPA example, there's a lot of CPAs out that are now offering wealth management. Like, well, because they're looking at taxes and they're understanding people's finances, and then they realize that those people that those people might not have everything situated in the right way. So how can they step in and solve the next need of their finances? And so I think they're ancillary services or products that as you get to certain plateau points, you can think about how else could I serve this target? How else could I extend my services?
love it. Love it. And I think that I like the way that you said not every 5 minutes, but not every 5 years either. I think that this needs to be revisited on a regular basis, because as the market matures, as you know life happens. We went through COVID, and that caused a full shakeup of the way everybody does business. Just using that the CPA example again. We used to go in and deliver a pile of documents to them. Now we've got a portal that you upload all your documents to, so you don't ever have to go visit that one.
Right.
But being able to adjust your messaging to the way that your buyers want to buy now versus, well, we're a brick and mortar and we're always going to be here. And, now you're a retail center and you're shipping through Amazon. So
Yeah.
you're meeting the customer where the customer wants to buy and how the customer wants to buy, which requires you to adjust your messaging again.
Absolutely. And at the same time, it might not be in a lot of businesses, it's not wholesale changes, right? It's not throw the baby out with the bathwater. It's how do I
Improve.
morph? How do I improve? I love that word. How do I grow my services to meet my customers, my loyal customers' needs today, right? And
Mm.
there's the waste bin is littered with brands that didn't grow and improve and mature, right? And so we definitely don't want to be one of those. But I also think that's realizing who you serve and how you serve them and where you're really good and where your best customers are coming from, keeping that in mind, because like I said, a lot of times those shifts are those 2-degree and 5-degree and 10-degree shifts, not wholesale shifts, because we are who we are, right? And so some of that foundational brand, I think, remains intact even as you make those small pivots.
Love it. Love it. This has been so good. It's filled with really good, and yes, we'll say foundation, but incredibly important information that, as we start to turn the year again, might not be a bad time to revisit this and say, hey, is it fresh? Is it on point? Is it working?
Right.
And asking these questions and what you can do to improve your messaging around who you serve, what you offer, and the results that you provide people. I mean, if you're a plumber and your emergency, I need you right now. So what are your strengths? Your strengths are I'll be there in 2 hours and here's my price point up front, right? Which are two
Right.
of the biggest concerns people have when water's leaking all over their house, right? Um,
Yeah.
I think it's having that kind of message that is so important for business, and it really differentiates you from, everybody else that's out there. And
Absolutely.
what better way to keep the lights on and get more business is by
That's
tuning
right.
in your message.
That's right. 100% by being super clear.
Love it. All right, Trey, where can listeners, you've given us so many good ideas. Where can listeners find out more about you and how they can improve their unique value proposition so that they can continue to grow?
So our agency's name is Story Amplify, which kind of makes sense, right? We're talking about amplifying brands and growing brands, and it's easy, storyamplify.com, right? That is our agency, that's our home. We are based, I live in Dripping Springs, which is a suburb of Austin. So as you show up, you'll see music amps and fun things since we are the live music capital of the world.
Nice.
But yes, storyamplify.com is where you can find us.
Love it. Love it. And do you have anything, or when they get there, is there anything that maybe you can help them with?
Yeah, well, so one of the things that we like to start clients with is a digital audit. We will look at their digital footprint and help and give it a grade. We look at their social, we look at their site, we look at their messaging. We actually look at site performance, right? Are things loading fast? Can search engines find you? And so we call that a digital audit, and we're offering that out to your listeners for free. And so I know you're going to provide the link out there,
Yeah.
but the free code is POD for podcast 100. So POD
Love.
100, if you use that in our digital audit, you'll get it for free. And what you'll
Awesome.
get from us is a 2-page PDF where we've gone through your digital assets. You'll have to obviously answer a couple questions so we know who we're looking for, but we'll go through your digital assets and give you an A through F score and then tips on how to fix them. You can fix them yourself or you can reach out to us and we'll help you do it.
Love that because most business owners know their jam. They don't necessarily know digital marketing, and they may have paid some kid to do it years ago, and and it's not up to date, or at least doing what they can. And it's a fast changing market. So I love the idea that you're given an audit. It's something that's not going to be heavy on the client side, but it's giving them valuable information that they can go, oh. First of all, I didn't know. And second of all, what can I do about it? And third, if I don't want to do it, I got somebody that can do it, which is you guys. So
Yeah, absolutely. But there are links to self do it. So, if you've got the capability, we want to arm you with what you need to get it done.
love it. Love it. Love the ideas. Okay, great. Wow. I just have to say thanks for tuning in today, and I hope you found some valuable insights on today's show that can help you make your business more profitable. And I know that, it may seem very simple to talk about your unique value proposition and messaging, but it is essential to everything that you're going to do, that foundation, and you're not going to build your house of business on a wobbly foundation. It's going to be solid to attract your ideal customer. Because what does everybody say when I'm quizzing people out there to say, what are you looking for in your business? And they're always saying more customers, and more customers comes by having a good message. So I think that's the important, thing that's sticking with me right here. And it's never too late to improve and make your message even better. All right.
Perfect.
As I mentioned earlier, if you'd like to take your business to the next level, make sure you grab my free Profit Booster playbook at boostingprofit.com, where I break down the steps to drive profit, streamline your operations, and prepare your business for future growth. While you're at it, subscribe. You don't want to miss future shows. You can always catch Profit with a Plan on any of your favorite podcast players, and we're looking forward to more great profitable information on next week's show. So until then, make your plans and profit with them. Thank you so very much, Trey. This was super valuable.